Resonance is not mysticism, it is not religion. It is something that can be duplicated as much as you want. There is a parameter, a protocol. There is nothing that cannot be done with information. Why? Because everything is information. Simple. Your DNA is pure information. It can be treated biochemically, as a particle, or it can be treated as a wave. All information can be placed in it as a wave. Will the information that entered my DNA be passed on to my children? It will. Once the information has entered, it never disappears. I know that it is very far from the current paradigm for someone to have access to a tool of this magnitude. But, if nothing is done, it will never get out of nothing. For 70, 80 years, scientific advances have been concentrated in missiles, the internet, and cell phones. The advances in cell phones are gigantic, but we are not getting out of that. For example, there is still no test that shows the chakra. We have been stuck in functional magnetic resonance imaging, test, for over 20 years. Why? Because there is no way to advance in the physics of this knowledge. They use antimatter to do the exam, they shake all the atoms in the body to do an MRI, and nobody cares about that. Isn't that interesting? It's like pressing the button on a cell phone, isn't it? I go into the tube, I'm shaken all over, and everything is fine, no problem at all. People who are going to do an MRI don't even have the curiosity to search on the internet and find out what happens in that machine. What are they going to do to me? Better not even think about it. This escape from reality is the problem. It doesn't matter. Some people understand this work and some people will continue it. It will not end, never again. People who will continue it have already been born. But, do you remember a census that took place 2,000 years ago, in Bethlehem? There was a rumor that someone was going to change the paradigm, so, it's better that it doesn't happen, kill everyone. 2,000 children were executed because, with the order to liquidate everyone, the probability of anyone escaping was very small. I won't say who will continue the work, but it already exists. Therefore, resonance will never disappear again, until the paradigm changes. In the meantime, you could have tremendous benefits with this tool. Rise to an incredible level, in this life, without having to have any experiences and slowly accumulate knowledge. Because that's what happens. You live, you accumulate information. Everything that comes in is information, and it stays recorded in you. It never disappears. Then, you live again, more information is aggregated. Linear, right? One at a time. And how long does this take? The first 20 years of life, to be optimistic, because, nowadays, it takes about 40 years for someone to become an adult. When you become an adult, you're ready to retire. So, you go play checkers, table football at the bar, and soon leave again. In the meantime, what did you do? Watch TV, soccer games, etc. Can you imagine? When you take the ruler, what is the result? How much information did you add, what did you learn? Nothing. Another life comes. Nothing. Again. And so on. Taking into account those who still do something, because most do nothing. That is why it is very difficult to add knowledge. But, on the other hand, people are under, or within, a system in which they have to grow no matter what. Growing is intrinsic to the system. It is called chaos theory. There is a cosmic law that governs the entire universe. Or do you think the Creator had not already foreseen that it would be this way? Comfort zone, kick in the pants. But do you remember that past, present and future make up a whole? He already knows everything. So what do I do? I will give you free will. Do whatever you want. And you do nothing. That is not possible. In this case, chaos theory applies, which uses mathematics. I recommend that you read a book, Chaos, James Gleick. Every now and then, the system makes continuous up and down movements. It goes up, suddenly it falls, it goes up again, and then it falls again, all the time. It happens in private life, in business, in civilizations, on planets, in everything. It goes up and down, it oscillates all the time, whether you want it to or not. If you understand how chaos works, you surf the wave, as they say. When the system goes down, you are already prepared, it goes down surfing and goes up again, right? For you, there is no crisis, no bubble, nothing like that. Wall Street is not a problem, if you understand the system. However, if you do not understand that chaos theory exists, you will learn the hard way. When the bubble bursts, patience, okay? It is a difficult, painful method, but the fact is that this is how it works. Information needs to be aggregated in any way. It must be created and it needs to grow, evolve. Everything is information, in the universe. And the universe wants to gain more and more information, and for that you need to move. In this case, what happens? A law of physics is created, a turbulence, that moves it, examples pointing to someone in the audience. It moves, gains information, everyone gains information. But if it refuses to gain information, in the future, when someone needs that information, it will not exist. In 40, 50 years, when someone needs the information, what will it be? Zero. It is no use. Did you notice? If you ask me for information about so-and-so, whoever he may be, but he is useless, what happens? He doesn't exist. On the other hand, if you ask for information about Gandhi, it will be great. Do you understand? Those who remain useless harm the whole. Because the whole needs each person to move so that he can gain information. Do you understand how difficult it is to talk about this subject? When you start to go up, up, up. Here you might understand well, because I've already talked about it several times. But in another lecture I gave, people were in a state of shock. That's the problem. I need to talk about atoms, repeating, attention, the wave is transferred, it enters, the peak of one wave collides with the peak of another, generating constructive interference, that's how the wave coming from the CD is absorbed, with the information. Remember? It was published in Scientific American magazine that the information from the book persists in the ashes and smoke of the book in the library. But no one knows how to capture this. It is already known that information persists, continues, even if it falls into a black hole. 50 years ago, this was a discussion between Stephen Hawking and Penrose. Today, it is no longer the case. Scientific American published that information exists in the smoke of a burned book. It is a physics magazine. It is not esotericism. How long will it take for them to learn to capture information in the smoke? 100, 200, 300 years. It will take a long time, because all the physicists I have ever spoken to cannot even talk about this subject. They are physicists who cannot transcend the paradigm in which they are. Every time someone asks a question, I say the following: I'm not denying information. But, for you to understand, we have to change floors, because it's not from this floor down here that you're going to be able to understand. The information is recorded on the CD, there's no point in measuring the hertz, that's not how it's recorded, as I said the first time. Have you ever heard of scalar waves or quantum vacuum? The CD is recorded in scalar waves. Nowadays, research is being done on how to transfer information to the brain, trying to transfer a text in word to the neurons. And this is published in a neurology journal. Do you understand the size of the problem? When you want to make a scientific breakthrough, but you don't make the leap, the quantum leap, the paradigm leap. Do you want to put information in word into someone else's brain? But why do you do that? And they have the funding for that. Because it's convenient, it's safe, they're doing research within the paradigm. It didn't even occur to them to transfer the wave. No, they want to transfer a text in Word. Do you know when they'll be able to do that? Never. And you see, they are great scientists, with laboratories, with funding, etc., but stuck in a paradigm. They can't get out of there, they can't reason in terms of waves, they need to reason in terms of matter, because otherwise they'll lose the funding, they'll lose their jobs. It's difficult. As long as we depend, for this subject to be understood, on people not being afraid of losing their jobs, we won't move forward. If I understand quantum mechanics, my career at the university will end, my career at the company will end, as a director of the company, as an HR manager, in any public job. There will be no evolution, because the person depends on not believing in quantum mechanics to have a salary. And what about us here? Here, no one will lose their job, because no one knows, right? No one knows that you're using quantum mechanics or resonance. Therefore, in all the places I work, there should be exponential growth, but there isn't. Because that's what person in the audience, said. You don't believe it. How do you make it happen? Do a test. Trial and error, a scientific method, you do the test. It's proven, and now what? Nothing happens. You just stay with that request. Once that's resolved, that's it. Everything is information. If a person needs to be qualified as a manager of any department, what do they need? Information from the best manager that has ever existed in the history of that subject. This information is not found anywhere, it is not in any book, because that manager has the emotional and mental knowledge. But if the knowledge is transferred to that person, what happens? Immediately, they start to have the mental and emotional knowledge of the greatest expert in that subject. This is available. Any information, all of history, all the people who have ever lived, who are living, who will live, this knowledge is available, anywhere, at any time. I put the information on a personalized CD. The information comes to you personalized. For each subject, for each thing you want, without limits, all at the same time. Information enters and cleanses traumas, taboos, prejudices, comfort zones, paradigms, and self-sabotage. Why does it clean? Because what's the point of introducing all the knowledge of a manager, a director, a scientist, or whoever it may be, into someone who is completely blocked and has a restrictive paradigm? Did you notice? That's why it takes a month, 2, 3, 6, a year. The information comes in instantly. If you let it, it is immediately assimilated. This immediacy that I'm talking about is billionths of a second. Once assimilated, it begins to organize itself, because the input is done atomically, and it begins to organize itself as an atom, molecule, cell, organ, neuron, mind, consciousness, behavior. It's very fast. In seconds it transforms into behavior. But, many times, a month later, I hear, I didn't feel anything. Strange, because everything you ask for, I put into myself first. I felt it, in seconds. I handed over the CD, the person played it and came back. What did you feel? Nothing. What changed? Nothing. Thoughts? Nothing. Emotion? Nothing. But I felt it in seconds. So, I have to start arguing, right? Didn't you change this, didn't you change that? Isn't it here? And how do you hold the fork, and how do you sit? Oh, come to the truth. The person ends up admitting that they have changed. It's true. They changed this, so it confirms that many things have changed. This is after I start asking a few questions. I ask the questions based on what I felt. I know what the person asked for, and I know what I'm feeling. It's banal, ridiculous. Then the question comes, oh, you don't know? That's not a problem. Sit in front of Hélio, and in a moment he'll tell you what has changed in you. Do you see? Everything you asked for is here, pointing to himself. First, I test it, because I'm not going to put anything negative. If you ask for a personality X, first I'll check what the person with that personality is like, to know if I can transfer it or not. This is a work of good. There are infinite possibilities, but this one is only for good. No negative possibilities will be passed on. But, in terms of personal fulfillment, it is open. All scientists, philosophers, writers, everything is accessible. But people's problems boil down to buying a car, buying an apartment. With all this information available, the problems are those of the first step, the second step. No one on the third step comes to talk to me. It's incredible. Imagine if a candidate could have this information, if he could be empowered. Have you ever imagined an empowered candidate? Do you know why they don't come to talk to me? Because they don't believe. Did you realize how perfect the system is? The system closes itself off, it is self-protected. The person who is going to use the knowledge for evil doesn't even come to talk to me, because he doesn't believe. The state of consciousness he is in doesn't allow it. He is closed in a materialistic box. He can't understand, therefore, he doesn't come to talk. It's impressive. And when someone does come, after all there are always exceptions, it lasts 2 months. When someone in power comes, it only lasts 2 months, because it starts to change. Remember what I already explained? The wave is benevolent. The wave carries information, but it is benevolent. I will repeat, the wave carries the information you want. If you want the Caixa Econômica Federal Guarantee Fund manual, that is what you receive. But it must come in a wave. The wave itself, intrinsically, is benevolent. Therefore, when you receive the manual, what do you also receive? Love. That, excellent, you receive love. If you ask for a car, you receive love. If you ask for an apartment, you receive love. I want to release the special check, you receive love, and, as a bonus, the special check, no problem. Remember the phrase. Seek first the kingdom of heaven and then all these things will be added to you. That's how quantum mechanics works. First, you receive love, then the rest comes. Calmly. Because, at the moment you change, what is your emanation? Love. When you emanate love, everything comes back. But why does a person resist resonance? What are they ultimately resisting? Love. That's where the problem lies. Oh, I don't believe it. Yes, many don't believe it, but that's not the problem. Imagine the extent of the pathology that exists in this. You cannot be loved. Humans refuse to be loved. They execute, they order killings. They kill everyone when they hear, I want to love. Wow, get rid of that guy right away, he's dangerous. That's right. And it's not. It's systematic. 2000 years ago, there was no talk of quantum mechanics, no talk of resonance, there was no such tool to do whatever you wanted, to transfer any information. What was the danger? Only love. The only thing desired was to give love. And the problem remains, because when you receive resonance, you are loved. But what do? You close yourself off, lock yourself away, fight desperately. Ah, it's moving. Of course, they are loving you. It is moving, friction is occurring. The information of love wants to enter you, it wants to cleanse everything that is bad, in the emotional, physical, mental, spiritual body, so that you shine, increase your frequency, brightness, photons. You gain everything, in addition. But it runs away after a month, 2, 3. We have statistics on the services. After 2, 3 months, people disappear. Why? Because they would gain the houses, the cars, the apartments. That's not why, right? Human beings are so self-interested that they haven't reached that point of altruism yet. I'm going to win a bunch of cars, I'd better run away. No, we haven't reached that point yet. Everyone is still on the second step, not even on the third. So what are they running away from? It's the problem of belief. They don't believe, because love is coming in. Unconditional love, which is worse. Unconditional love. When they make a request to me and I ask the questions, what people have done in the past starts to appear in the anamnesis. So you can imagine that, working with hundreds, around 800 interviews, it's possible to have a general view of humanity. As happens with political research. With 1,000, 2,000 interviews, you already know, with a margin of error of 2%, the index of each candidate. It's statistics. I also have statistics. At a level of 800 interviews, everything appears. Everything that humanity is capable of doing exists in my anamnesis. But someone else's everything is different from mine. His everything, indicating someone in the audience, is very small, because it is his paradigm, it is what he sees, his level of consciousness. My everything is big. What happens? I ask, what do you want? What else? Okay. I don't write anything down, it's in code. If they ever get the anamnesis, they won't find anything, because everything is recorded only in memory. I only write so people are satisfied. Hélio is writing. Some people want to read. What could Hélio be writing? I want to see. Then, take the sheet to read. Despite everything I hear, I answer, everything will be fine. You'll manage. We'll solve it. Let's work. Isn't that right? You can tell me the worst things. I don't judge, I don't execute, I just help. But many people wait a month, 2, 3, 6, a year. It would make things easier if they told me right away, but they don't. What will Hélio think about the 3 abortions I had?